All my life, I've been incredibly in love with the 90s and early 2000s horror games. Stuff like Clock Tower, Resident Evil, of course Silent Hill, and most importantly, Fatal Frame. Now, these games have always been incredibly different because they're super spooky, having us go through different haunted houses in Japan using a magical camera to try and defend ourselves from these venomous spirits. But the weirdness is the fact that most of the Fatal Frame games never came out in America. While we got a bunch of Resident Evils and spin-offs and tons of, well, terrible Silent Hill entries, they just stopped bringing most of the Fatal Frame games to the West. Well, now they are finally bringing over Fatal Frame 4 Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, and I have been playing this remastered version of it. But today, I want to talk about the good and the bad, because as happy as I am to have finally finished this lost classic, parts of this have not aged the best. But let's talk about that. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, first and foremost, what is Fatal Frame 4? Why is this game so terrifying, and why is it important that it finally came back? Well, this is a game that takes place on a tiny, very haunted island. 10 years ago, a bunch of little kids got kidnapped during a big festival. They managed to be found before anything terrible happened, but since then, some of the kids have died, and the other ones, the survivors of these kidnapped children who are now teenagers, have decided to go back to the island searching for answers as to who caused this to happen, what's really going on, and what is its connections to possibly some darker secrets. This game is basically just one long, incredibly messed up haunted house. There's jump scares, there's scary music, there is very, very messed up, gory, ghouly ghosties chasing you from room to room, but that's also the most fun aspect of it. As a Fatal Frame fan, I have to say, it's just crazy to finally get a chance to play this game because it's actually pretty dang decent. But let's start off by talking about what's new in this, because the updated visuals are certainly very impressive. They have completely redone the entirety of the lighting system, making so things actually look much more spooky and silhouetted. A lot of times when your flashlight beam is going across rooms, you can better see the tiny details in these environments. The textures of the walls and floors and stuff still don't look particularly great. This was originally released back on the Wii U in 2008, and it still kind of looks like a 2008 game. Thankfully, they completely redid each of the character models. There's a bunch of different playable characters. Every chapter you're kind of swapping from person to person who's all stuck on this exact same island. And when you're going through them, you really kind of get a chance to appreciate how much detail is actually, well, improves the story by having their faces look a lot better. The voice acting is still the original Japanese audio with English subtitles, and it really manages to preserve that great terror. A lot of these ghosts look way better. I mean, I've looked at a lot of old gameplay of this game years ago. I was so excited for it. They managed to make the already very messed up looking ghosts way more terrifying, and that is fantastic. But additionally, they added in a bunch of new optional costumes. Throughout my gameplay here, I decided to switch my outfits quite a bit, simply because honestly, I thought it was so funny. So sometimes I'm wearing maid outfits or cat ears. These are not the standard costumes, they're just part of this new special re-release. But to go with these better updated visuals, they have also fixed some of the gameplay elements that looked the most clunky in the original version. Specifically, when when you are trying to aim and shoot at these people, basically the way this works is you have the Camera Obscura. This is an ancient relic that exists in all of the Fatal Frame games. A scientist invented what is essentially an occult soul capturing device. It's made to take evil spirits and suck them up like delicious, expensive beef jerky. Now, when you have this, it's very simple. Aim and shoot. The longer you keep a ghost dead center of your reticule, though, it increases the damage dealt. Now, what's interesting is that when you're fighting these ghosts, they teleport around. They're constantly trying to blink behind you, phasing in and out of existence. So while you're fighting them, honestly, in the original version, they put a weird border across the entire screen, like you're really looking through a teeny tiny bit of camera. I'm not looking for realism, I'm looking for terror. Here, this time around, you get the entire screen to actually gawk at the messed up monsters trying to eat your sexy face. I think this is a very good change that definitely makes everything look better. But to go with this, they've also just completely redone a bunch of the environmental cues. While you're going around, the Camera Obscura can also capture just more friendly ghosts, spirits that are trapped on this island just like you are. And a lot of times, these people would sometimes be a bit hard to spot, or there are certain doors that need to be photographed in order to unlock them. You suck the evil juice out of them. And in the original version, it would oftentimes just look like a vague blue glow. It'd be like a little tiny puddle on the door. This time around, it very clearly labels what you can do, what you can interact with, what you can grab. I mean, it is straight up a drastically better looking experience. But when it comes to the movement, this starts to go into my biggest gripes with Fatal Frame 4. This is definitely a game from 2008. Your character walks at like half a mile an hour. This was very typical of the time period because, well, it seems like the technology had trouble loading in the next room. So they would have characters move very slowly in horror games like this so they could prepare that next jump scare, load the next detail, try and populate the next room. And now it feels very weird to press the run button and be going at like half a freaking mile an hour. It's like, man, I wish I could buy Red Bull from a checkpoint to actually go at double speed. Also, having played this now for the first time ever, there is more backtracking in this game than anything I have ever played in my life. You probably think that occasionally I'm repeating some footage here. I'm not. This is just straight up. Different chapters will take you back to the same environments. So if you're in the insane asylum or you're in the nurse's area, you will visit it multiple times with different characters, solving different puzzles in the same rooms, but a lot of times you end up checking the same spots for items. You go back and forth like 50 times for every single chapter. I mean, they even repeat bosses a couple times. It's very weird that they did this because I'm not sure if there were budget constraints on this a long time ago, but it definitely gets a bit stale when you have gone through the same exact room 5 or 6 separate times, and then you switch to a different character and the first thing they do is go through that exact same spot. It's hard not to groan. With that being said, I still found this game to be incredibly terrifying. It manages to always just have that perfect amount of jump scares. Whenever a ghost popped up, whenever you get ambushed, it always felt like a earned scare. It always felt like, holy crap, especially when you get locked into a very teeny tiny room with a very dangerous ghost. It's cool to actually try and think, all right, I can't run, I can't hide. I have to just be basically spinning my camera and trying to land that very, very careful headshot to hopefully survive and save my very limited resources. This is classic survival horror. And it's cool that it's here. They also added in one other completely new thing that's kind of hilarious. They call it snap mode. It's basically photo mode, and it allows you to stop in the game, add in custom filters, do funny poses, but most importantly, you can spawn in ghosts and move them around like puppets to make basically your own funny, goofy pictures. I mean, there is a lot of ghosts in this game. When you're playing as the dude, he gets to have this thing called the moonlight flashlight. It lets him basically have like a ghost shotgun to shoot wider angle blasts at these. There's a ton of undead in this game, just in general. Lots of evil spirits have died on this island. You're going to be fighting a lot of them. And it's kind of funny that after getting scared so much, to turn on snap mode and then just puppeteer them around to make a funny thumbnail. Snap mode is a good addition. I will say the price tag of this game, as much as I enjoyed it, I still don't quite think it's worth that $50. I played this on the PlayStation 5. It definitely looks like a PlayStation 3 game, even with these enhancements. I kind of wish they'd made it 30 or 40 bucks instead. As a fan of Fatal Frame, I'm very glad it's here, but as a neutral reviewer, going into this as unbiased as possible, it's a game that definitely has a lot of rough edges to that charm. But okay, so we've heard a lot of good and a little bit of bad. Let's go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Fatal Frame 4, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, a 7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Also, I have to say, it's very fun that I wish every game had photo mode in it. It makes my job. I love making thumbnails. I don't talk about it, but I love making thumbnails for videos so much. It's cool anytime they put photo mode in it. It makes my job so much more pleasurable. Thank you to Koei Tecmo for the review code. Spooky. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.